Hi class, Mr. Groves here. Check out where I am. This is the main area where Lewis and Clark began their westward journey to the Pacific Ocean. Their successful trip to present-day Oregon in 1804 sparked the eventual westward expansion lasting well into the 1850s. This map will help break down how our country expanded into the contiguous 48 states they are today. By 1803, the U.S. had land east of the Mississippi River, well, except for Florida, due to winning it from Great Britain after America, won its independence. The Treaty of Paris 1783 made this possible. Not long after that, President Thomas Jefferson made a deal with France to acquire what was New Orleans, but also this huge chunk of land that would double the size of the United States in what was called the Louisiana Purchase. So then President Jefferson reached out to Meriwether Lewis and eventually William Clark to go on this trip to explore what he basically bought. When Lewis and Clark made their way down from Pennsylvania to set up camp at what is now called Camp Dubois, just outside of Alton, Illinois, they built this ship that was designed to navigate tighter rivers as opposed to like a major body of water like the ocean. Now, Lewis and Clark are obviously American heroes because they made it to the Pacific Ocean and back, thanks to help from the Shoshone Indians, and especially Sacagawea, who is also known to many as Sacagawea. Lewis and Clark were able to reach their destination in spite of navigating treacherous rivers and the Rocky Mountains. Now, during their trip, they sent President Jefferson drawings of their maps, and then of course they sent home different types of plants. Oh yeah, and this little critter, a prairie dog, which was a big surprise to President Jefferson. Obviously, Lewis and Clark faced their fair share of challenges. They were the fortunate ones to come back, where they didn't lose everything. It was all the luck of the draw. Now, I wanted to demonstrate to you some of the challenges that people faced while traveling out west through a classic game called Oregon Trail. It's a really good mixture of history as well as gameplay, and it gives kids as well as myself, who happened to play it for a little bit, an idea of just how challenging and how lucky a group of people had to be in order to travel from the Midwestern area all the way to the Pacific Ocean with dreams of farmland and starting up businesses and maybe a fishing industry. Oregon Trail demonstrated what was called manifest destiny, where that was the big reason why a lot of people traveled out west. They felt like it was, well, their destiny. On top of that, you had people who went out west for religious freedom. But check out some of the challenges that my groups faced the first time I tried. And then, of course, the second time I tried, where out of 5 people, only 1 person was left who made it to the promised land in present-day Oregon. Now, obviously, when you prepare for a trip like this, you really have to have the right amount of supplies. You have to make sure you've budgeted well, and you're preparing yourself for the worst-case situations, which would range from making sure you have backup wheels or axles to making sure that you have enough food and enough tools to move you along. On top of that, making sure you've got the proper clothing. Throughout the game, I noticed that 2 major things came up as far as challenges. Maintaining a food supply, where if you were lucky, you'd find some wild fruit, and if you happen to be really good at hunting for buffalo or for bears or deer, then you'd be just fine. Plus, access to medical care was very, very limited back in those days when you're traveling out in the middle of nowhere. I feel like the Oregon Trail game helped demonstrate just how lucky some people made it out west and those who weren't so fortunate. The bravery of these pioneers and trailblazers helped pave the way for thousands to millions of other people who moved out west for better opportunities. Ultimately, the expansion not only included the Louisiana Purchase, but the Florida pickup from Spain. Spain gave Florida up to the United States. The Texas annexation, which we'll talk about in another episode. The Mexican cession, which Mexico gave up to the U.S. after the U.S. won the Mexican-American War in 1848. And then, of course, the Oregon Territory, which the U.S. finally claimed from the British. Combine all of that with what the U.S. already had after the Revolution, and this became the foundation of the 48 states we have today. Obviously, decades later, we would see Alaska and Hawaii become part of the United States as well. Thanks for watching, and take care, everybody.